Hello, my name is Grian, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be using the replay mod to go over the thought process of myself building a house that is completely improvised. Okay, so as with any build, I'm going to start by making the base and the frame. So I'm just going to lay down a simple T-shape. I kind of already know the size that I wanted it to be, but we'll see as the video goes on how that develops and changes. So I'm just making sure that all the sides have a centre, a one block centre to be exact, and I'm just developing the frame. I then randomly decide to start a bit of the roof because I know that I want that to be a slant using only slabs so that it's only slightly gradual, and then I decide that I want the roof on the other bits of the frame to be a bit steeper, so there's a bit of contrast in the roof already. I am one of the most finicky builders that there are. I cannot stay still, and I learnt while recording this video that I cannot work on one bit of the build for more than 5 seconds. I just hop around all over the place, and I didn't realise this, but there is a little bit of logic behind it. I believe that I do that is so that I can make sure the build as a whole continues to have the same standard and that I can notice mistakes very easily. If I worked on one little bit of the build, then perhaps if I made a mistake, it would completely ruin the rest of it, but if I work on lots of little bits, I can actually realise my mistakes and correct them very early on. I'll go around making walls and all sorts of bits, and I will be constantly, and I mean constantly, editing the frame of the build because I want to get the shape just right. And adding more frames helps me build the walls and determines the detail that I put in. I worked on this part of the build first because out of everything, this was the least improvised bit. I had this image in my head from the get-go. I knew exactly what the roof would look like and what I wanted the walls to look like. The rest of it was a bit less so. So I finished this bit first, and then I move on to the rest of the build. I should also mention that I'm using worldedit in this because I really want this to show what it looks like when I build normally, and when I do my tutorials, I try to refrain from using worldedit when possible, but in reality, I use worldedit all the time. So I've then gone on to do one side of the house, and because I want it to be different from the other side, its symmetrical opposite, I add a little balcony and then a second door into the main part of the house, so it's almost like a house attached to an inn or a bar, because that's what it started becoming. As one side becomes smaller and the other becomes much taller and larger and more complicated, it started in my eyes to become less of just a normal house, which was my original intention, and became more of an inn, like an old style highway inn. And that often happens when you're just freestyling on a build. Something may have started out as a dragon and ended up as a chicken. It could be anything. So now I'm just continuing the build as I normally would, and I'm constantly editing the frame even now when I've done the lower level completely. I then go on to do some of the roof, and this is where I become incredibly finicky, and you can tell as I'm trying to follow my previous self building it that I'm just going all over the place and building whatever I thought was necessary at the time. Not quite sure what my thought process was, but at least I did do an entire segment of the roof at this point. Now that I've done 1/4, I can then just copy paste it to the other side, and then it's nice and symmetrical. No need to make it too overly complicated, so just copying the 4 corners works perfectly. So I thought this side of the house needed something extra, so I added a stable of all things because I had kind of conceded to the fact that this was going to be some sort of inn, and you know, old style inns had places to put your horses. Next I finally decided to do the rest of the walls, although to my dismay I didn't actually do them in order. I decided to go all the way around doing random windows because, you know, why not? And for this video, I'm actually using something called the replay mod, if anyone's wondering. That's why I'm able to get these nice fancy angles and pause myself. It's really handy. This is the first time I've used it, so if you really like this type of video where I'm commentating over a previous build, please do let me know, because I would love to use this mod in the future. It saves me a hell of a lot of editing, I can tell you. So now that it's an inn, I decided to do a flag, and I just kind of continued decorating all the walls until they match up in the levels of detail. Some of them are less detailed or more detailed than others, and it gives it a nice contrast. I kind of opted for, quote, lazy detailing, where I just put stuff in the corners or add a flower pot or whatever. But everything is starting to come together now. It's just little details that need doing now, so any plain walls that need filling in, or adding flower pots, etc. There's nothing too major left to say about this, but I do like to add even minute details to things that would look previously finished. So the sides of these roofs were, you know, plain wood, but they could use something to make them a little better. I then go on to make a nice chimney, which I didn't actually intend at the beginning, but I thought it would even escalate the build even higher in terms of the Y coordinate, and just adding a few nice touches, making it look very rustic and, well, in terms of physics it wouldn't be able to stand, but it looks really good. And we are nearly done. I played around with worldedit, as you can see, well, you may not have noticed, but I changed all the log to be completely six-sided, to say that there isn't any of the white bit in it. I then follow my own advice and add a transition. So add a flower bed and a simple path, and it makes wonderful additions. I then make a horse cart. You may have seen this one before as well. And then once I've finished this cart, I think I'm finished. And that's it. That is the entire build. As we circle around in slow motion, you get to see that all four sides bring something different to the build. The front being the most interesting, which is why it's the most aesthetically pleasing with the flag and the stable. The side, you can tell it is the side. It's nothing too great, but it looks good still. This is like a back entrance to the build. Like I said, there's the balcony or whatever. But yet again, it still looks different to the rest of it. And there we are, we're back round to the start again. This is actually the house that I'm going to be using for my 5 ways to improve your interior video, so you will be seeing it again very soon. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments section below. I do read all the comments and I love replying to them, so thank you very much for watching, goodbye!